Your mind is limitless. The possibilities are endless. Awaken Your Mind Magic shows you how you can dream limitlessly and live your life on a new level. Susan Kathleen speaks with ordinary people who are living extraordinary lives using the power of their mind. Abundance, prosperity, and success. There are no limits to what you can dream. Join Susan Kathleen on a journey into your dreams, making a difference and living life on your own terms. This is Awaken Your Mind Magic.
Hello and welcome everyone. My guest speaker today is John Boggs, who is from Los Angeles, U.S.A, and also resides in his dream home in Mexico. I've known John since early 2018 when I certified as a life mastery transformational consultant with the Brave Thinking Institute, where John is CEO. And as a national and international award-winning executive, he founded the business and leadership division of the Brave Thinking Institute. In 2010, he branched out, starting his own coaching, consulting business called Maximum Sales Power, traveling and speaking on leadership, business, organization, and success, appearing on stage with many of the top leaders in the personal development industry, such as Bob Proctor, Les Brown, Mary Morrissey, and Paul Martinelli. John has spent 22 years in the resort hotel industry, and again, he is a nationally recognized executive. He was responsible for developing and leading a successful business with thousands of employees, producing $60 million annually. Thousands of business professionals have benefited from his training and motivation, including me. And he also taught me how to speak publicly. I just need people to know that. That's why I have this podcast. And John has personally coached and consulted for executives with Johnson & Johnson, Toyota Motors, Pfizer, the Marriott Corporation, Citigroup, Century 21, the World Bank. His executive clients have enjoyed greater clarity, increased revenues, and tangible strategies that empower more effective leadership. Welcome, John. It's great to have you on Awaken Your Mind Magic today.
Awesome. Thank you, Susan. Thanks for having me. And what a pleasure and honor it is to be with you. And I'm a fan of your work and the podcast and this whole idea of taking a moment where maybe we've had adversity in our lives and some of the stories that we've heard from your other speakers over time. How do you take an adverse situation and create positivity out of it? And it's my pleasure to share one of the stories in my own life. I know we all have these moments. You know, it's part of the human experience where we have something that has occurred. And I think for quite a few people right now on our planet, they're in that moment of adversity, and they're looking for a way to create a positive result out of a difficult situation. So the story, I think the most important one in my life, that moment where you are asking yourself, do I turn right? Do I turn left? Is this it? Am I at the end? You know, that moment for me happened the first time when I was in my early 20s, believe it or not, and a long time ago now. But I suffered from alcohol and drug addiction as a young man. And wound up in trouble in a number of ways, financially, completely bankrupt. You know, in the U.S., our tax authority is called the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS. And they were chasing me for money. I was 9 months behind on the payments on the car that I was driving, and they were looking to try to come and get it. And the car was not only my transportation, it was where I was living. I was living in the car, and in the middle of getting divorced from my high school sweetheart. She wanted money. The IRS wanted money. The bank wanted money. The car company wanted money. And guess what? I had no money. And on top of that, I had a drug and alcohol problem. And at that moment, there was a moment in time where I was sitting on a bench in a mall, believe it or not, and watching people walk by, and many of them couples that were holding hands and enjoying the shopping experience, and they had a gleam and a glitter in their eyes. They looked happy. And I looked at these folks and I thought, you know what? I don't think I'm ever going to have that in my life. I am cursed, or there's something fundamentally wrong with me. I am flawed. And, was sitting there contemplating what I was going to do. And while one of the thoughts was suicide, I was a chicken, really, at the end of the day, to even really seriously consider that option. But I was more than anything hoping I might just not wake up, that kind of thing. When the thought crossed my mind to check my voice messages, which didn't make a whole lot of sense because my cell phones had just come out maybe the year or two before. So I had one, but it was long turned off because I wasn't paying the bill. So I couldn't call anybody, but you could still check your messages. And so people could still call and leave you a message. So I went and checked the message from a payphone. And there was one message. Now, why anybody was calling me, there was no reason for anybody to be calling me other than a bank, which I didn't want to hear from. And the message was from my grandmother. And the message was, John, we love you. I love you. And I want you to come home. And while I appreciated that moment where my grandmother was reaching out, and I had done some things that I wasn't proud of, what I knew in my heart, I felt her love in that moment for me. And I knew in my heart that if I wanted to do the right thing, it wouldn't be actually to go to her, but it would be to get help for my one more time. I'd already been through drug and alcohol treatment twice before this moment. And one more time, I became willing to follow the direction of someone else. And so I made a phone call to a man who came and picked me up and he was willing to help me. And he said one thing to me, and this is the one thing that I'll share with your listeners, that it doesn't matter what problem you're facing. It doesn't matter what situation you're in. It doesn't even matter how bad it is. What he told me to do is the same thing that each one of us can do. And it was trust in the process. Now, what is the process? The process isn't the same for every situation. But guess what? If you're facing a problem or a challenge, there's someone before you that has faced that problem and challenge. And they know the process and they can help you with it. And in my situation, this was a man who had learned how to be sober. He not only learned how to be a sober, happy, joyful person, but he learned how to become highly successful. He was a super successful business guy. He had everything on the outward that I wanted: a successful business, a beautiful home, a loving family, and he had everything internal. He had clear peace of mind and joy and happiness. And so I didn't know what he meant by trust in the process, except I was willing to do whatever he told me to do. And that began a journey. And that began a journey that for me began with abstinence, one day at a time, working on myself, working on my spiritual condition, working on my physical condition, working on my emotional condition and my mental condition. And it wasn't an overnight instantaneous change, but my willingness to follow his instruction led me over time to build a new relationship with who I might become as a productive member of a community and a society, later to become a father, I've got 3 amazing kids. I just celebrated 25 years of marriage to an amazing woman. And in this last October, I celebrated 29 years from that day. And I have not had a drink or a drug in that 29 years. So,
congratulations, John. That's amazing. 29 years. Wow.
So, yeah. So, I mean, that while that's wonderful, and I don't tell that story to impress anybody, but what I want to impress upon people is it doesn't matter how bad it is. It can get better. So the key for me was finding a guide, finding someone that I could follow. And the real key is finding the right person, finding the right instruction, finding the right help. And so, today I encourage people, no matter what their situation is, find someone that has demonstrated the ability to overcome whatever it is you want to overcome. If it's building a business, find someone that's built a business that is the kind of business that you would want to build for yourself. And then find in yourself the willingness to do whatever it is they did. This mentor told me, here's the deal. Are you really willing to go to any length? Are you willing to do what it's going to take? Because here's the deal. Here's what I promise you. I promise you that I won't ask you to do anything I haven't done. And I won't ask you to do anything illegal or dishonest, because that's not who I am. But I will ask you to do tough things. And if you want what I have, you've got to be willing to do what I've done. And so I found just enough willingness in my heart to do what was required. And it wasn't easy every day by any means. But the cool thing is that in the end, there was a day and a time, and it wasn't very long. It was maybe 2 or 3 years after that moment sitting on that bench in the mall where I found myself walking down that same mall, feeling a sense of joy and happiness because the IRS was no longer looking for me. My ex-wife and I had resolved our situation in a friendly and wonderful way. I was back in good graces with my family. I was able to hug and kiss my grandmother, and I was living a whole nother life. And so when you go from being completely hopeless to that experience, you consider yourself a walking miracle. And today, of course, that was many years ago, but today I love to talk about the idea and the principles of what it means to put on a positive mindset. And that mindset's the fundamental foundation of a positive mindset starts with willingness.
Explain willingness. John, your story is fantastic. And it is a story that inspires many of us who have trained with you and people all over the world. What I love about you, John, is your honesty and your passion to be able to get this word across in order to uplift and help thousands of other people, which you have done. And when you speak about willingness, how do you work that into your mindset?
That's a great question. So for me, willingness that starts with the suspense of judgment. The first step in really putting on a willing mindset is to suspend judgment. Oftentimes I would find myself in the beginning trying to figure out whether or not what he was telling me to do was going to work. Is this really going to work? Is it really going to create the result? Being skeptical, doing something halfway. So it's suspending judgment, and it means participating fully in whatever it is that the process that you're in requires. So that's the second step, is full participation. So suspending judgment and fully participating in whatever it is that you're being asked to do. Those are two, I think, key fundamental steps in terms of willingness. The other one, of course, his main instruction, his mantra was trust in the process. So the other, I think, aspect to great willingness is the ability to fully engage even when you don't immediately see the results. So as William Murray wrote a great book, and one of the lines in that book is, absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence. That even when we don't see results immediately, that doesn't mean the process isn't working. That another aspect of willingness really requires the ability to be persistent. A willingness to stay engaged as I'm moving forward.
This is what you teach and mentor your clients and your coaches that are training with you in the Brave Thinking Institute. Can you share with the listeners how you teach a person or many individuals about that purpose to create a vision?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you bet. I mean, so after figuring out my way through that dark night moment, I really then began to build in myself first a relationship with a level of success. And the first things that I began to chase were material success. So it was the big house, the nice car. This mentor that I was mentioning, he drove a really fancy red sports car. I wanted a fancy red sports car. I got my red sports car. Then you get the house, and then you get a bank full of money, and you begin to realize over time, maybe there's things more important than material success. And so really, when in 2010, you mentioned me branching out and starting my own coaching and consulting business, I had climbed the corporate ladder after following his instruction. I had learned some amazing things and became an award-winning executive. And in 2010, I realized that while the material success is wonderful, and there are some things that are required to be able to create that, the real key was finding a burning desire for something. And so how do you find that? In everybody that I knew and all the people that I have studied that were wildly successful had a burning, deep desire for what it is they were working on. Whatever it was. You look today, you look at what Bill Gates has built, or Warren Buffett, or Elon Musk. They have this Oprah Winfrey, Arianna Huffington. I haven't included her name on my bio. I had a great chance to speak on stage with Arianna Huffington, an amazing, powerful businesswoman with a burning desire for the work in the world that she's doing. And so where does that come from? How do you find that burning desire? And so at the Brave Thinking Institute, what we help people do is we help them create a crystal clear answer to one question. And when you answer this question, that can ignite the flame of the burning desire. And the question is this: what would you love? Most people spend more time planning a weekend getaway than they do contemplating the answer to the question, what would you love? What would you truly love in terms of business success? If you could do anything, if you could go anywhere, if you could create anything, what would you love to create? See, for me, it was 2007, actually late 2006, when I was asked that question for the first time, having already had a major level of success in my life. And the first question that was asked of me is, what's next for you? And I said, I don't know. I'm kind of at the top of the mountain here as far as I'm concerned. And well, if you could do or go or create anything, John, what would you love? And the answer to that question at that time in my life was I wanted to build a dream home. You mentioned my dream home in Mexico, and there's no financing in Mexico. So if you're going to build a multi-million-dollar home, you need multi-millions of dollars already in the bank. There is no way to go to the bank and get mortgage financing. And I did not have that kind of financial success yet to build a home like that cash. And so I mentioned to the person asking what it would be to build a dream home. And so that became a new vision for me. And there's a whole nother story around creating that dream over the course of a couple of years. Amazing things happened in my life as I held that vision to where less than 2 years later, I was living in that dream home.
Tell us the story. It's one of my favorite stories, and I know the listeners will love it. Come on, John, share it.
Okay. All right. Well, so at that point, I had just had twin girls. So I had a son and 2 daughters, and I was living in a small home, a beautiful home, overlooked the Bay of Cabo San Lucas, and it was a wonderful home. And yet it was too small for my family, and it was creating in me longing and discontent. So let me just share with, for all of us, that one of the ways that can inform the answer to the question, what would I love, is to pay close attention to what your longing and what your discontents are. So for me, I was tired of tripping over toys and having no place in this little house where there was any peace with 3 little kids running around. I wanted a new home, and yet I wanted a beautiful, big, I wanted a home that was multi-million-dollar type home. And so the person that asked me the question, for your listeners, was Mary Morrissey, who is a transformational teacher, world-renowned transformational teacher in her own right, and also happens to be my mother. And so she was visiting her grandbabies in Mexico, staying with me, and she said, "Hey, what would you love to do?" And I said, "I don't know." And I feel like I'm at the top of the mountain in terms of my career. I'm doing great. And she said, "Well, what else?" And I said, "Well, I'd love a new home, but you can't get one down here. There's no mortgage financing." And so we began a process where she walked me through how to build a vision for what this home would look like. What would it look like? How would I feel in it? Where would it be located? And I took a napkin and I said, "Well, here's what I know for sure." And I began to draw what I would like it to be. So I ask you, if you're creating a vision, ask yourself, what do you know for sure? Sometimes we don't know the whole picture. We don't have the whole vision, but there are aspects that we know for sure. Start there. That can become the cornerstone of a great vision. And so I created that napkin with what I knew for sure. And then my wife and I had a piece of land actually in Cabo San Lucas, which is where in Mexico I was living. And I would go over to that piece of land and I would hold that napkin and I would visualize the home being built, me in the home, my kids being happy, my wife loving the home, and we were living in this home. And I would go and visualize on that piece of land every single day. And it became a daily process for me, holding the vision in mind. This is what I'm creating without any way to create it. No way in the material world for me to know how I might create this vision. And it wasn't very long till I was back visiting with my mom. And she said, "Well, let me ask you this, John, could they build the home from the napkin?" And I said, "No." And she said, "What would you need?" And I said, "Real plans. I would need an architect to draw up real plans." And she said, "Well, go do that." So I went to the architect and he told me it was going to be $15,000 for plans. And I thought, why am I going to spend 15 grand for a set of plans for a house I don't have any way to build? And I called Mary and she said, "Well, you're never going to build it without the plans. Go back and buy the plans." And so that was a stepping out in faith. That was a stepping out into the unknown. And that's real greatness for any of us to achieve that next level of vision. There's a moment in time where you have to take that step. And so for me, it was plunking down that money, getting the plans, and then going up and looking at them. Now I'm up at the lot with real plans, not just a napkin. And I learned over the process this phrase, do what you can where you are with what you have. Do what you can where you are with what you have. I could take that step. I had $15,000 for plans. I didn't have $1.7 million to build the house, but I had 15 grand. Let's take that step. And so we did that. And then, the next thing that came to my mind, okay, what could I do next? What can I do where I am with what I have? And it was sell my house. And the problem with that was I didn't want to move, but I thought, well, if I don't sell the house, at least that would allow me to start the foundation, and who knows what could happen after that. So next step of stepping into faith was selling the home that I had. We sold the home. And interestingly enough, the person that bought the house, when they bought it, I said, well, when do you want me to move? And they said, well, when do you want to move? And I told them, I don't want to move. And they said, well, interestingly enough, we're buying the house as an investment property. We'll use it to retire in 5 years. So if you want, you can stay in the house. So I was able to sell the house and I didn't even have to move, which was amazing. And so Fantastic. I took that money and started building. And one day while we were getting ready to close down construction, a guy drove up the road, this dirt road where I was building this house out in the middle of nowhere. And he said, what are you doing? I said, we're building a house. And he said, could you show me what it's going to be like? Now, do you think someone that was visualizing every single day could walk him visually through a house that wasn't built? You bet I could. So I told him the whole story of the house. And he said, this is going to be amazing. And I said, why? Are you going to build a house up here too? And he said, no. I represent a U.S. mortgage company that's going to start lending money in Mexico. And just by chance, just out of the blue, just out of the whatever it is that you believe is divine inspiration, he was able to partner with him. He was able to fund the project, and I was able to finish that amazing house. But if I hadn't have taken the steps that I could take where I was at the moment, I would have never been in the right place at the right time for that to occur. So in a lot of ways, it really takes me back to that first mentor. You know, he used to tell me, he said, John, if you waited to leave home, you want to go to work and you wait at your home until all the traffic lights are green between your house and work before you leave. If you waited for that, you'd never leave. And the same thing is true with your dreams. You got to take the step you can take and then take the next step and then take the next step. And the home story is a good example of that. Beautiful home. And we finished the house. We happened to move in on American Thanksgiving, which was a great moment for us, a chance to be grateful for everything that it took to bring that dream into shape. And today, we help other people dream up whatever their vision is. What is the life that you would love to be living? What is your answer to the question, what would you love? Because if you start with creating a vision for it and you get clear and you visualize it and you take the step you can take, you can absolutely wake up saying, I love my life.
And you truly do. I love my life. In fact, I got a T-shirt that says, I love my life, and I wear it with great pride. It comes from the institute that I'm associated with. And of course, John is the CEO, and that is the Brave Thinking Institute.
Yeah.
And John, there's another thing that I would love for you to share with everyone is your book. Tell everybody about that.
Well, there's an awesome opportunity that I've had really over the last 30 years to study leadership. As the Brave Thinking Institute, you mentioned one of the things that we do is we certify transformational coaches. So amazing, powerful people like you, Susan, who desire to help others transform one set of circumstance, situation, or condition into a new set of circumstances that they're in love with. That is the transformational process. We've just shared two transformational stories. One, my personal transformation, the other, the transformation of a dream from a napkin into a home. And the reality is that transformation actually has been codified. There's a repeatable, reliable, predictable system that creates transformation. And so you're trained, and we've trained thousands of other people to learn what that system is and then help coach others through that system. And so that's really one half of the work that we do as an institute. The other half is for people that they don't necessarily want to be trained as a transformational coach, but they want transformation of some kind and they want our help in creating that. And so I specialize in helping people that are in business, leaders, specifically business leaders, because that's my background. I became a successful business leader. And so I use these transformational tools to help business leaders transform one result into another. It might be top line revenue. We want to move from a $10 million revenue to a $20 million revenue, or it might be bottom line profit, or they want to transform the culture in their company. So there's lots of different ways that transformation can play as a business leader. But one thing that is fundamental are the characteristics that make for a transformational leader. And so I wrote a pretty simple little ebook called 22 Great Qualities of a Transformational Leader. And I make that available. I know it's available to your listeners, and it's not complicated. There are 22 great qualities. If you just put on a few of them and use them in your own leadership, if you lead a business, if you lead an organization, these 22 qualities can make a great difference for you, your leadership, and those that you impact.
Where would they find that book, John?
Well, you can find it at thebravethinkinginstitute.com in the business and leadership division tab of our website. And so that's a great place that they can find it. I believe there's also a link that they can go to called bti.com/22 qualities. I'm not actually not sure what the link is, but I'm sure we can give it to you. You can post it in the podcast notes.
We certainly will. John, you've stood on stage. You are an international speaker and a powerhouse. You stood on stage with
Susan.
You are,
Okay.
with other amazing people, obviously with Mary Morrissey, Les Brown, Paul Martinelli, Bob Proctor, I mean, many others as well.
Mm-hmm.
Show off a little bit. Tell us all who you've spoken with, and just so the audience knows how incredible you are that you're actually on that stage with that caliber of person.
I don't know. I'll tell you one story that I think is kind of funny. There was a time and a place where I was new to this industry. So I had a lot of business success and I spent a lot of time speaking in front of people as an executive. So the skill of public speaking wasn't new to me, but the idea of doing it as a coach or a public speaker in the personal development realm was something that I was dreaming up for myself. And so I got invited to be a panelist with Bob Proctor and Mary Morrissey at an event that they were running called Making a Million Look Small. And it was a great event they were running where they were helping people that had big dreams. And oftentimes we think of our dream as big. And what Bob and Mary were teaching people is if your dream is big, what does that make you and your higher power? Small. If your dream is big, you're small. And at the end of the day, we've got to know that when we partner with the spiritual side of our nature, whatever you want to call it, universal intelligence, your connection to the infinite, God, whatever you want to, whatever your version of that is, when you're connected to that level of power, there is no dream too big. And so they were helping people through the phrase, let's make a million look small. How do we make a million look small? So this is one of the very first events where I get invited to do any sort of presentation. And I'm just preparing a little 5-minute thing. And we're in the middle of this event. And Bob Proctor calls me from the back of the room. John Boggs, get up here, do a piece on this, just on the fly. So I came up and I was thinking, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? Now, at the time, 2 years before, I was making, just in terms of my corporate income alone, about $500,000. So on the fly, on the way up there, I made a decision that what I was going to talk about was how to make $500,000 look big. Bob and Mary are teaching you. And so I started with this. I said, I know Bob and Mary are here to teach you how to make $1 million look small. You and your infinite intelligence are greater than any problem. But let me tell you something. I've spent the last 30 years making $500,000 look big. And what do I mean by that? What I mean is I had set a goal in my mind that this was as big as it gets, that there is no dream bigger than this. And I think many people have in their own mind, whatever the next promotion is in their job or the next one thing they want, they make that look so big. I was making $500,000 look big. And the reality is the minute that I made my dreams bigger than that, and I knew, and I was studying this information that Bob and Mary were teaching, that all of a sudden $500,000 looked small to me. So it was a lot of fun. I had a good time. Everyone resonated very much with hearing that idea because they were living some version of that. I know we're here to make $1 million look small, but hey, if you're like me, you've been making $500,000 look big, and they all resonated with that. So it was a lot of fun. That was a great moment.
Incredible moment. Share with everyone how fit you and your entire family and all the admin at Brave Thinking Institute are, because they're always dancing around on the stage.
So, yeah, whether it's the live events that we do, we put on, I mean, right now during COVID, we've been doing virtual events, but normally in a given year, we'll do 10 to 15 live events throughout in the United States, all over the country, East Coast, West Coast, in the middle. And we do a lot of dancing at our live events. We're a firm, we have 5 core values at the Brave Thinking Institute. Number 4 is fun. And the way that we speak about that core value is we create joy, laughter, and fun in all aspects of our work. And so unlike a lot of seminars where you sit there all day long and the blood pools in your ankles and you're yawning and just burned out by the end of the day, those aren't the kind of events that we put on. We put on fun events. We rock the house and we do a lot of dancing. And interestingly enough, that has actually translated very well to our virtual events. Virtually, we get people up, they're dancing around, they're all on camera. It's just a ton of fun. So you can still have a lot of fun even in these virtual times that we're in.
I've spoken to a couple of my fellow coaches, life mastery coaches, and they have, especially here in Australia, they get up at about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And then when I speak to them the next day, they say, I'm tired, but I'm not. I feel so great because I've been dancing with everybody, all the Boggs family, which is fantastic. I love it. John, when we do get to go back to be with you, can you explain what it's like to be a transformational coach and the backup and the friendship that we get from you and the admin at the Brave Thinking Institute? Yeah.
Well, thank you for, just the compliment, Susan. And again, the reason that we are who we are is because of people like you, you being who you are. So, we're a firm believer in building a community that has a family feel. We're a real tribe of people that have some very fundamental core beliefs. So the first of which is that we believe in our first core value is we believe in people. We know that each one of us are far more powerful and contain more potential than any circumstance, situation, or condition. And so we attract people that believe that. And when you're around people that believe what you believe, it is an amazing experience. And that doesn't mean that we deny circumstance, situation, or condition. There are real challenges that go on, but with the right mindset, the right energy, the right positivity, you can absolutely handle whatever comes your way in a way that's better than you would without being a brave thinker, for sure. And so, when our coaches gather as a community, there is an absolute buzz. It is a high vibration transformational zone. It's like being on the high speed internet. And we have a lot of and they have a ton of fun. They have a good time together, and we provide cutting edge, whatever the latest and greatest is in terms of training, so that our coaches are equipped with the tools to really help people reach their goals. At the end of the day, it's all about providing easy ways for people to make a difference in their lives where they can wake up on a daily basis saying, oh man, this is awesome. I'm enjoying the results that I'm getting.
You know what I love about you and Mary and the rest of the admin is the fact that we train for 12 months, and it's a really exceptional training. And plus what is given to us in the training is you as our business mentor. We have your brothers and sisters. This is a real family affair, everyone, as marketing specialists and strategists and things like that. What I love is the fact that after that 12 months, we were talking about getting together. There's not just a cutoff date like many trainings that I've actually been on personally and other people have told me about. There's a continuation. There is this love and this family feeling. And the fact is that you all remember who we are. Yeah. We're not sort of like put out to pasture once we've trained. We are quintessentially a part of your tribe, as you say.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. Yeah. So speaking of the faculty as a whole, I mean, and one of the things that happens, especially for those folks that want to get into the coaching business, is the idea that they think once you become trained to coach, you all of a sudden know how to run a coaching business. And that is almost the farthest thing from the truth. Running a business requires some fundamental skill sets in business building, marketing, some form of sales or enrollment training, and you need all of these elements to run a successful business. So for us as an institute, it's like a business in a box. We train you on all of the key elements that you need in order to run a successful business, one element of which is coaching and curriculum. So having a proven, reliable, repeatable system, a 10-step process for transformation is what we provide our coaches as far as curriculum. And then we train on what's referred to as evocative coaching skills. It's a very particular modality of coaching that we train. And so, yes, we do provide the curriculum, the steps, the transformation, the coaching training, but we also include the marketing, the enrollment, the business building, and we make it simple and easy and fun, because we want to have fun while we're doing it. So, and you're right. We not only provide all that, but we also provide the support in the long run, because no matter what you start off doing, as I shared with my own mentor, you're going to hit moments where you need support. And we're there for that.
And you certainly are, every single one of you. And what I'd really appreciate the listeners to know and understand is I am speaking to the CEO of the Brave Thinking Institute. He's my friend. And that is very, very different to many other places that I know. Explain what evocative is, because people will be wondering.
So evocative, most coaching, most consulting, most help is done in an instructive way or a directive way. A coach will say, do this, do that. You're doing this wrong. Here's the way to do it right. And there are appropriate times for that kind of help. But at the end of the day, that in terms of helping you design a vision for a life that you would love, helping you take a look at a result, a circumstance, a situation in your life that you would love to transform from one set of circumstances into another. Evocative coaching is based on the idea that the real best way to create that transformation actually is already embedded in you. There is a wisdom that you bring forth that the coach is trained to help pull out of you, your intuitive nature. Your best, most intelligent self knows the answer. But oftentimes we don't know how to pull it out of ourselves. We don't know how to bring forth our own wisdom to know really what the best path for us is. And evocative coaching techniques help the coach help you tap into your own intelligent self and bring forth steps. Now, the coach also will provide guidance and some help along the way too, but it's that beautiful ballet or marriage that comes from not just telling you what to do, but bringing forth your own intuitive nature on the best way to do it. Because when you really help the client come up with the next step, they take that step, it puts them on a journey that is connected to the infinite, the quantum, as we all know from a scientific standpoint. When you're in harmony, the results are magnified far beyond what any set of instructions. Here's an instruction manual. Here's a recipe on how to do this. So we do provide a framework. The 10 steps of dream building is a framework, but then we help you and your intuitive nature navigate that framework. And that's what creates amazing transformation.
When you speak about the quantum, obviously we understand the quantum. Can you break that down into a simple way of letting the listeners understand what quantum and metaphysics is?
So we know from a scientific standpoint that we live in a field of vibration. Everything is vibrating. Everything is energy. There is no energy isn't at this point isn't created or destroyed. We are living in, and from a quantum physics standpoint, they refer to matter in its unpotentialized state as what they refer to as superposition. So we as human beings don't see things at the quantum level, at the level of vibration, but that doesn't mean that we aren't swimming in a field of vibration. We are swimming in a field of vibration. So much so that even our thoughts have a vibratory tone to them. Now, you might have heard the example of if you are standing in a room and you have a violin and there's a piano in the room, a grand piano with all of the piano strings in the piano, and the violinist plays a note on the violin, that creates a sound vibration that goes out into the room, and the same piano string in the strings on the piano that is the same note that the violinist is playing, that piano string will automatically begin to vibrate with that note. What does that mean? How does that apply to this idea of swimming in a quantum field? That as you're thinking a thought, it is vibrating with every other element that is in alignment with that vibration. So you think negative thoughts, you're attracting negative things. You think positive thoughts, you're attracting positive things. You're resonating with positive things. You're resonating with negative things. And so your thoughts matter. What you're thinking about matters. And so when I think about moving and living and breathing and existing in a quantum field, it's not just that it is vibrating, it is also intelligent. And so it is important for me to what I call co-create my experience. I was co-creating an experience called despair in my early 20s. I didn't know any better. I didn't know that my thoughts were creating that experience. I didn't know that my coping mechanisms weren't working very well, but the evidence in my life said that was the fact. And when I began to get mentorship, I began to shift my thinking. I began to trust in a process. Okay, what does that mean? That shifted my thinking. I began to vibrate with a different tone, and my results began to shift. So we do, this is not woo-woo stuff. It is a scientific fact that you are living and breathing and moving. You are a set of vibrations, and you're living in a universe that's vibrating. You do get, as a human being that is intelligent, you do get the choice of what vibration you want to be in. And the way you make the choice is with your thoughts.
That's so true, John. Basically, everything is energy, and we are in that field of energy. And that's hence the butterfly effect. Mm-hmm. When you have the vibration of a butterfly wing on one side of the world, the other side once in a few days can create a tsunami. And that is what we do with our thoughts as well. And that's what you and Mary and the rest of the team at Brave Thinking Institute teach your coaches to be able to do and help other people. And so everybody needs a coach, everybody. Just letting you know.
That's right.
Find one from the Brave Thinking Institute. And John's a brilliant one. John, you speak Spanish.
Just
when did
a
you
little
start
bit.
doing that? Yeah.
Yo hablo poquito español. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Sí, cierto.
And of course, because where your institute is situated and it's very close to a lot of people who speak Spanish, you actually have many of your programs in Spanish. And so people can learn to be a coach in that language.
Yes, we do. We've got some of our flagship products available in Spanish. We've got coaching materials available in Spanish. And recently, we just had a coach that translated all of the materials into French. So we've got coaches all over the world. We don't have official translations in every language by any means, but we're just now unofficially adding French to the list of options that are not English. So
fantastic.
There you go.
You see, you've just branched out and you do even more. You go the extra mile to help people.
We try, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. You're managing and consulting building. You're teaching of that.
Mm-hmm.
How can people get in touch with you to be able to work with you, John?
Well, yes, that they can, again, if they go to the Brave Thinking, and thank you for asking that. If they go to the bravethinkinginstitute.com, there is a business and leadership section. And there's all kinds of products and services and opportunities available for folks to reach out, including, of course, the 22 qualities of a transformational leader. And there's a leadership meditation that I have available that's a free. These are all complimentary free things. And then there's all kinds of programs and services that we offer to help people build business. If you're in alignment with this philosophical standpoint, if you want to create transformational results in a business setting, I often will joke and say that when I was in the corporate world, there were not a lot of people running around saying, "What would you love?" That was not the conversation that we were in. No. But today, I know, but today there's a whole new energy around the spirit of business, the soul of business, and really the understanding what it means to create the right culture in business. And so I've dedicated my efforts to helping business leaders create amazing results that are in alignment with those qualities and that spirit. And so bravethinkinginstitute.com business and leadership division would be where to find out more, Susan. Thanks for asking.
How would a person listening to this podcast who is on the brink of a career change or wanting to become a transformational or evocative coach, how would they connect with the Brave Thinking Institute to be able to be interviewed? And I know you have to be interviewed because I was to be interviewed for the privilege of becoming one of your coaches.
I thank you for asking that. So we've had just under 50,000 people apply to become a coach. And so let me just say to the listeners, I'm going to toot your horn a little here, Susan. We have just under 3,000 people that we accepted out of the 50,000. So you've got to apply. You do. And, and at the end of the day, what we're looking for are people that are a good fit. And so we want to make sure that if we invest the time and energy and you invest the time and energy, that it winds up being a good fit. But again, if you go to bravethinkinginstitute.com, we have numbers of aspects to the work that we do that are there. I've mentioned business and leadership, of course, my work, but another one of the tabs that is there is coaching certification. And so, by the way, just so you know, we have 5 different businesses that are there at the Institute. One is life and transformation. If you want to transform results in your own life, there's a tab for that. There's one around love and relationships. If you want to transform a result in your relationships, another one is health and well-being. And then, of course, there's business and leadership, which I take care of. And then the last tab is coaching certification. If you want to become a certified coach, there are options under that tab that allow you to explore those options and have a conversation.
And you can become 3001 out of 55,000 who have applied.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And that would be, and you'd be part of the family. And I'd be there to welcome you along with John.
That's great.
John, before we wind up here, what would your advice be to your 6-year-old self?
That's a great question. Yeah. So to my 6-year-old self, what would I tell myself at 6? At 6 years old, I would tell myself to listen more, and play harder. Those would be the two things. Listen more and play harder. Play hard and listen more. That would be good advice at 6.
And what would you?
I'd have more to tell myself a little later, frankly.
Well, we'll work up to that. What would you tell the audience is the best advice that you can actually put out there? You've given so much already, but what would you like to share?
Yeah, I think probably the number one thing that I would think just to myself, even as I got older, is that it's difficult to understand the power of our thinking fully, and that we all have levels of limited thinking. And we think things like, well, they can do it, but that doesn't mean I can do it. Someone else can have it. There's a great line in one of the motivational videos that we use in some of our training where Steve Jobs says, remember this, the world that you're living in was created by people no smarter than you. Figure out what you love and go do it. And you think about what he created for himself, and so if I could give myself advice before I got into trouble in my 20s, and I think this is the advice for all of us, and even to remind myself today, is that there's a part of my thinking that limits what I think I'm capable of doing and being and having. And for me to remember to think possibility, and to continue to ask myself one question and then follow the answer. The question is, what would you love? So my advice is spend at least as much time on that question as you would on planning a weekend trip, and maybe just a little more.
John, thank you so much. Wise counsel. It's been wonderful having you here, John, on Awaken Your Mind Magic. And Awaken Your Mind Magic is conceptualized from Brave Thinking Institute.
Oh,
so I appreciate. Thank you so much. You've been an awesome guest. As usual, a total inspiration. And I'll make sure that all of your connections are uploaded with this podcast as well. So thank you, John. Thank you for being with us today on Awaken Your Mind Magic.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Bye now. That's Awaken Your Mind Magic for another week. If anything you've heard today has really impacted you and you want to know more, or you would just like to connect with me, then visit my website, awakenyourmindmagic.com, and reach out for a free one-on-one discovery session with me. Tune in next week, where I'll be discussing more tools to unlock your dreams and live a limitless life that you would truly love to live. I'm Susan Kathleen, and this has been Awaken Your Mind Magic.